Hi everybody, welcome to the inaugural video. I'm going to start with probably the most controversial and the most cancelable topic these days, which is racial superiority. So, which race is superior? First, we have to define what we mean by race. The Merriam-Webster dictionary defines race as any one of the groups that humans are often divided into based on physical traits regarded as common among people of shared ancestry. Because we're all related if you go far back enough, race is often simplified into taxonomy that is overly focused on physical characteristics or phenotype rather than simply genetic ancestry or genotype. In fact, there is often more genetic distance between different groups within Africa than there is between a given group in Africa and the quote-unquote race outside of Africa. So, although race is somewhat arbitrary, it's also useful in limited circumstances. And we shouldn't shy away from examining it just because there is ample variation within races. It's impossible to draw concrete racial lines, but we can draw arbitrary ones. After all, there is no absolute definition for the color blue either, but we still use the word blue, and it has important meaning in our everyday lives. So, what are the races that will form our teams? Well, traditionally, the races were Caucasoid, Negroid, Mongoloid, Australoid, which all correspond to white, black, East Asian, and Australian Aborigine. If we were dividing them up fairly based on genetic diversity, we'd probably have more than one race in Africa, but let's just work with the 4 traditional geography-based races for the sake of argument. So, which one is superior? And what does that even mean? What does superior even mean? Again, we go to the dictionary, one that surpasses another in quality or merit. Well, we certainly see obvious qualities in our 4 defined races that may potentially surpass each other. Are there also less obvious ones? For instance, Africans tend to have darker skin due to more melanin, which in turn reduces the chance for cancer-producing sunburn. Aha! I guess Africans are the superior race. I guess let's just move them up to S tier, right? But wait, hold on. All humans absorb vitamin D through the skin, and that ability is reduced in people with darker skin, so it's not that easy. So maybe Asians are the best race. Okay, so here's a test to see if you're Asian. Push your tongue up against your front incisors. If you feel a shovel shape or buttressing on the edges of your incisors, guess what? There's a good chance you have East Asian ancestry. This is a Neanderthal and Denisovan trait, presumably, that made teeth stronger. I mean, it only makes sense. And it's a trait that Europeans and Africans don't have. So I guess Asians are superior, right? Perhaps, but East Asians also lose out in the height department by 6 to 8 centimeters on average, so good luck grabbing apples off the higher branches, am I right? But Africans are the fastest sprinters, right? Does that make them superior? Well, West Africans do tend to have more fast-twitch muscle fibers and denser bones, but that's only one region in Africa. What about the slow-twitch marathoning Kenyans, or Pygmies, or South African Xhosa? Not so much. And are Africans more susceptible to frostbite? It seems so. Are whites more susceptible to heat exhaustion? Probably. Okay, let's cut to the chase. When we said superior, we meant intelligence. Who cares about sunscreen budgets and being able to reach the top shelf at the grocery store? Alright, intelligence. Whites are the most intelligent, right, Hitler? Not exactly. If we go by our 4 arbitrary racial groups, and then we use standard measures of IQ, East Asians actually tend to score best. Pays to have those shovel-shaped incisors, I guess. So in this hierarchy, Asians are followed by whites, then Africans, and then Australian Aborigines. In addition, the average cranial capacity and height ratio tends to follow that same hierarchy. I guess big brains means smarts, right? Early measurements by John Philippe Rushton have been kind of widely criticized, both academically and then later due to some affiliations that caused them to be called racist. But I mean, careful, you're the one watching the video on racial superiority. There have been also twin studies and adoption studies that attempt to control things like parenting and environmental factors, and those usually seem to back up our hierarchy when it comes to IQ, but not always. But just like with our West African sprinters, there's regional variation in IQ. It's generally Northeast Asians who have the highest IQ among Asians, and it's the Ashkenazi Jews who have the highest IQs among Caucasians. These IQ scores seem to be borne out in occupational success, as Ashkenazi Jews make up, for instance, 22.5% of all Nobel Prizes, and yet only 0.2% of the whole world population. And there are also other types of intelligence. Studies have consistently shown that Australian Aborigines, for instance, have better visual spatial memory than their Australian counterpart. And I have some major criticisms of the racial breakdown by IQ for sure. Before we can finalize our tiered list of superiority, we should go through them. Are the IQ tests themselves culturally biased? That's what my annoying and loud sociology professors told me. IQ tests nowadays, though, they try to keep that to a minimum, but it's almost impossible to completely remove cultural context from scoring. I mean, just believing you're less capable can actually lower your motivation to answer a given question. In a famous study, kids who were given a C for the exact same actual score as kids who were given A's in a course went on to do better in life. Doesn't it also throw a bit of water onto the adoption and twin studies? Regardless of parentage, just being told you're dumb can affect your actual test score, dummy. And what about nutrition? Don't poor regions have lower nutritional standards? You can't tell me that kids who eat breakfast do better on tests, and then blame the kids with distended bellies for doing worse on a test. And what about epigenetics? So for those of you who don't know, epigenetics is the study of environmentally activated gene expression. The way you live, what you eat, and other environmental factors can have an effect on the physical characteristics of your ancestors. Another study in breeding cats showed that when removing omega-3 fatty acid from the cat diet, the next generation of cats had a lower fertility rate. And what was even more interesting is that the next generation had an even lower fertility rate and so forth, so it continued down the generations. Epigenetic effects can have nothing to do with your base DNA and can yet have lasting intergenerational effects. So what's my honest opinion? Well, my honest opinion is that despite the aforementioned, Ashkenazi Jews probably do have better innate capabilities when it comes to certain types of learning. It's been theorized that it has something to do with the history of promoting obsessive study of the Talmud. And like the Chinese diaspora also has this old Confucian obsession with learning. It's just ingrained in their culture. And maybe Australian Aborigines are better with directions in a eucalyptus forest. Maybe Kenyans can herd cattle by foot better at high altitude. And maybe the Maasai are tall enough to see over the brush for lions. And maybe Innuit can retain heat better in the snow. And maybe that's all okay. I mean, is the ant superior to a human because they've been successful on the earth for 120 million years? And that's 120 million years unchanged, almost. And they outnumber us 1 million billion to 8 billion. Well, perhaps. But regardless of the arbitrary characterization or race, there is no race, ethnicity, nation, or village in which every individual therein can claim superiority over every individual in any other race, ethnicity, nation, or village. Not in intelligence, not in sprinting, not in marathon running. You can't just look at a person and know whether they can solve an equation or paint a painting or checkmate you or run a 4-minute mile. So just relax. Relax and remember this. We are all born of kings and slaves, criminals and lawmen, warriors and peasants. We all made it this far, and not without struggle. We all came from Africa, we all ran from lions, we all threw spears at wildebeest. Then some of us built pyramids, some of us invented writing, trekked across land bridges, braved the cold, hid from giant bears and dodged venomous snakes. We all fought terrible wars and made heroic sacrifices. We may have come on different ships, but we're all in the same boat now. I want to thank you so much for listening to my video. I'm hoping to do more of these videos on various topics, and you're going to be among my first subscribers if you subscribe, so please like and subscribe to the video, and please share it with your friends.